coming to you live today to talk to you about the 5 tips for buying well in today's real estate market. I thought I'd put together a simple list to help, because I'm getting lots of questions and people just not sure how some of the terminology in real estate. And as a real estate agent, I find it easy if my buyers know what's going on and how to make it work for them as well. So the 5 tips today, number 1, and absolutely the number 1. Now, when we're talking the real estate market, you've got to remember that every market is different. So wherever you live is different. There's also pockets in each market that will command different prices or different strategies and different actions. So there's always properties that are going to be the most sought after. As soon as they come on the market, you've got to jump, so you've got to be ready for it. So that's not my number 1, but it's just to kind of clarify that you've got to really get to know your market. So a market in the Perth side, Western Australia, is different to Sydney at any time. So they all go through cycles, and it's just getting to know the market you're buying in, because that's all that's relevant to you at that time. Also, you can get to know the prices and buying and things like that. If you want to buy interstate, that's fine. Just get to know the rulings there. So the ones I'm talking about today, when we're talking about prices, are going to be for New South Wales market. And particularly I work around the Raymond Terrace, Madawi market in Port Stephens. We do some country. I have a stock and station agent license, so I do some of the acreages as well as lifestyle acreages. They might be the smaller ones, and right through to units. And I'm doing my live a little bit earlier today because I'm going off to put a new unit on the market. And so I just have been looking at the statistics there, and it kind of made me think, well, really, how did the buyers work it all out? Okay, so number 1 in today's market is get your pre-approval for finance. If you don't need finance, if you're buying cash and you're using the property that you're selling to pay for that, that's not always just straight out cash, because you might need to be selling to buy. So either way, get your pre-approval for finance. That gives you a couple different benefits, having that pre-approval. At the moment, it seems to be taking 3 to 4 weeks sometimes to even get finance through if you're starting from scratch. So it's much better to have that already lined up, and that way you can actually go in strong. If you actually see a property that you want to buy, you can go in strong. You can include that into your offer that you're pre-approved. So pre-approval is not just looking on the internet and getting a rough idea. You haven't even given your name. So that's not exactly the same pre-approval as pre-approval through a bank manager. You can go to banks, you can go to a broker, you can have all different sorts of finance. But pre-approval comes into it, definitely. If it'll give you an idea of how much you have to spend. It'll also give you the number that you can spend at, which is the same thing, of course, but a range is different, so because you might say, well, this is what I want to spend, but I can go up to this figure, and it's good to know that, especially if you're going to an auction. That's really important, because once you buy, you've bought, okay? So that's great. The next one is understanding the pricing strategies. What I'm finding is that there's so many different ways that properties are advertised nowadays. So there's contact agent, maybe offers between X and X, so depending on the market. In New South Wales, that can only be a difference of 10%. They can't have a full range that might be from, say, 300,000 to 400,000, and because that's 25%. So it needs to be 10% maximum on that range, as well as it can't be offers over. So you'll see programs on TV that might say offers over, $1 million, depending on your market. And so in some countries that might mean automatically just assume you have to pay 20% more. So it is a little bit confusing to people that are not well practiced in the market, not current on it, and they're looking at TV shows and sometimes the TV shows and the way they negotiate, well, that might have been 5 years ago. So you're watching something from a while ago, and especially that offers over. It may still be relevant in different parts of Australia, but definitely in New South Wales, it's you need to have offers between at the most. So some people word that by not wording it. They actually just put the numbers into the ad. They say X amount to X amount, and that way. So more on that offers. At the end of the day, some people say, well, what do they want? And at the end of the day, you've got to work that out for yourself, what you want to offer, because I can't say as an agent what they want. That is the range. And some people say, well, what will they take? And I think, well, we've got the range that's there. At the other side of it is, well, we don't know what a vendor will actually accept when the offer is on the table. So it's a matter of you need to put that offer forward, and at least, between that range is a comfortable place to be. And if they don't accept that first offer, it can still be renegotiated, but sometimes they sit that on the table where they're waiting for another offer to come in, especially if it's the first day on the market. So if it's early days in the market, they may well be expecting a higher part of the range, but at the end, I'm always saying at the end of the day, but when it comes to it, just basically put in your offer and get the ball rolling on that. That's what I like to think. Auction, that's another version. Obviously, there's an auction process and you need to become familiar with that. You can ask your real estate agent for an actual document on how to buy it from, and that's a fair trading document. They have that, and some of the real estate agents actually have their own forms on that, which are all based on the fair trading guidelines. And auction can be where they give you a guideline of price, as well as it could also be going in without a guideline. So it's up to you to work that out. But there are rules from fair trading on that, with the way they can price it and what they can quote to you with the auction. So if they're quoting a guide, it's got to be based on what the appraisal was or what they genuinely believe that. So it can't be less than what the appraisal was on the property. Okay, so expressions of interest is another version that you'll see when there's properties. And expressions of interest is where basically you tell us. So it's another version of contact agent or to a guide. Probably not that, because contact agent, I think what they're looking for is to say, well, when you get on the phone, then they'll tell you their guide, or they'll tell you what they've been authorised to say, but it still is a guide. Or they might just say, well, it's a version of expressions of interest. Well, tell us what you would like to pay. So at that point, then they would say, well, is that an offer? Would you like to put that onto a contract? Or would you like me to do that verbally? Many different ways to do that. Asking price, that can just be a good old-fashioned way of just saying, well, here's a number, and everyone offers usually lower. That's probably the way it tends to go, but sometimes you really need to go in and just offer that full asking price, and it can actually go higher. So you might just say, look, forget it, I want it, so I'm going to offer higher than that asking price. It's at the end of the day, you'll know what's on the market and you'll think, well, hang on, that's a bargain, I want it. But it may not even be the fact that it's a bargain. It might be just a property that you really want because you wanted to buy in that street. So it is all a bit of, it is hard, because I know that everyone is coming from a different angle. So there's probably no set price. Market price is just that. It's a willing buyer, willing seller, and that there's nothing unusual, like maybe they had to sell it there on a timeline that has to be sold today. That can change the price. Or it could be that someone wanted to buy in a street where there was a relative. It might have been the next door neighbour, or they needed to buy that property because it's adjoining another one they wanted to develop or grab the backyard from. So that changes what a market price is. And so, but I've got another step, so I'm going to show you a little bit more about that at another point. Another way people can advertise a property is, another wording I've seen is property preview, and that could be in the first 10 days, 15 days, 20 days on the market. They might say, well, we're just putting it out there. We're just going to see, what the market's going to tell us for the price. So they're not going to put it out there and either overprice or maybe underprice. So at the end of the day, it's one of my steps about researching will come into that and take care of that. So tender is another version where you might put in your offer, which could be a whole range of different details on that, and it can be said to you that you need to put that onto a contract and actually have the 10% attached to the contract with your offer or your different terms and conditions. And usually they pick one of those offers and that's it, or they could come back and renegotiate with 2 or 3 people out of that. So just all different ways. So I guess understanding how the price strategies work is really good, because I find a lot of people come to the agent and say, how is all this working? Well, they get a little bit upset or they frustrated, and I find that's usually because they just don't want to look like they didn't know something. So it could be because they are frustrated because they have been to try to buy different properties and they've missed out, or they just haven't felt like the agent was connecting with them, telling them the exact story of it, because sometimes they say, well, what will the vendor take? And it's a question that really the agent shouldn't be answering, but also it's just a matter of you need to know about what it's worth, because it's a little bit like the movie The Castle, when they're asking about, well, you know, what are they asking for the jousting sticks, I think it is. So then as soon as you hear the number, you either go, yeah, that sounds right, or no, tell them they're dreaming. So everyone does have a fair understanding of what the price could or shouldn't be, or what they'd be prepared to pay. But I guess in negotiation, nobody wants to be the first to put the number through, you know, to the front. But when there's at least an offers between guide or an asking price, you do have a guide and it's something to go with. So my third tip for buying in today's real estate market, research recent and current sales. So keep understanding that's how a lot of the appraisals are done for a property. It's based on recent and current sales, but similar properties. And you can't say, well, there's a 3-bedroom houses, so they're all going to be 3 bedrooms, they're all going to be that price. Once you get that base price and it's roughly in the same area, then the agent, the seller, the buyer, everyone's plussing and minusing for things that are relative to them that they like, especially the buyer because they're in control of that part of it. And the seller and the agent will be looking at, well, okay, this one's got an extra bathroom or there's an extra toilet. So that original price of what maybe that 3 or 4 bedrooms sold, a similar one in the similar area, they can increase from that or decrease from that, and it's still just to give a logical way of working out the price. The other way is, a seller can just say, well, this is what I need for the property. So in that way, that's their pricing. And then a buyer will say, well, this is what I need to pay. This is all I've got. That doesn't create the price. The price is the happy somewhere in the middle of all that. And usually it's funny how it's not the vendor that wants the lowest price and the buyer would love to pay the highest price. So there's a logical way to work it out. And if a property is in totally another area, if you can't get a similar property, you can go to another area. It might be another town even. Just say, well, okay, the properties there tend to sell for 10% more. This is the only comparable sale or one that's similar that I can find, and you can start plussing and minusing from that and say, also as an agent, we get to know all the different types of buyers that are coming, what they're seeking and what they're prepared to pay. So in a way that does go into, working out the market price, and it keeps it down as well as keeps it up. So it works both ways. So I find the more everyone's open and honest with each other in talking about what they'd be prepared to pay, it's really good. So research what's out there. So not just going in blind. I've had people where they come and see, they get their finance approval, and then they're out that weekend and they're just snapping up the first properties, probably see a few properties and then snap one up. They haven't even looked at the market, or so they say, and they really don't have full command, and that's probably not, from a buyer's point of view, good. And also still from the seller's point of view, you've got buyers that really aren't sure, so that means that they may not be a stable purchaser, so they may not be the best one to accept the offer from. So research that market, and I find, well, my number 4 point is go to open homes, but at the same time that was really linked to number 3, which is researching the market. That's the recent sales before. I guess going to open homes is the chance to see what is actually in the houses. So once, even if you're not buying for now, it might be in 6 months' time where you've seen those properties that then are going to be on your recent sales list, and you'll say, no, I remember that house that had a brand new kitchen. I remember that house. It had a double garage, and it had the carport, and it had the extra toilet downstairs. So every little bit makes a difference, and it's not always just, okay, the cost of that garage is X amount of dollars. The fact is it's already there. Okay, so you could find a property and say, well, I'll add a garage, and that's going to be cheaper for you or dearer depending on the way the property is priced. But at the end of the day, it's just a round number, and it's got to be what everyone's comfortable with that makes it go through. So this is today's market. You have a little bit more time to do that in some ways because the market, it has slowed down. There's some properties that are getting away really quickly, and so you need to be ready to jump, and that's again understanding the current market and researching that. And if you've got pre-approval, you'll be ready to jump, okay? But if you go to those open homes, you'll also get to understand the different agents in the area, the different personalities, and you can really get to know them. So that's my point 5, is get to know the local agents and do share the information about what you want. I've had buyers that have said that they want to spend, maybe they have a limit. They'll tell me, okay, it's this X amount, 350,000, or it might be 500,000 or $1 million, and they'll say, and then a property comes on that's 10% higher than that, and they wonder why you didn't contact them on it. So just because we hear your price, I think what happens is that a buyer is coming to see a house. At that point, it might be a $350,000 house. So you say to them, well, okay, what's your maximum that you can spend? They go, oh, 340, because they're not going to let you know that they can actually spend the 350. Then the other side of that is that, well, okay, property comes on tomorrow that I've got up, my sleeve, basically. I know it's about to come on. We can't announce it until the contracts are in and it's all ready to market. But a property might come on for just 5% more, but if they've actually said, well, this is my absolute limit, they may not hear about that. So I find, look, it's okay. You can say that I can spend this amount. We know that because you can spend that amount doesn't mean you want to. Okay, so it can be this range to that range. If you make it too general, like I've had people where they say, oh, anything up to $1 million, that's fine. Okay, just put that then on your sheet, and we do put that into a database which automatically alerts people of new properties that have come on the market. But they might say, look, oh yeah, anywhere between 200,000 and $1 million. And then we come back, I might ring them and I'll say, look, actually I've got an $800,000 listing. It's here today. It's just been listed. Would you like to be one of the first people through? And then they go, oh no, I can't spend that much. Okay, so let's adjust it. Now it's 200 to, what is the number? Oh, 750. But somewhere in there they may have felt, okay, uncomfortable about saying, well, this is my limit. We're not worried about that. We just want to get the right property for you and make it a speedy process for you, or to fit into your timeline. Sometimes people do buy properties that are maybe a couple, 25, 30% more than what they said. And it's not always because they haven't told the maximum limit, but I've had where people do find a property or we show them an extra one because it actually matches everything they said they wanted, even though it wasn't matching the price limit. But if we show them other properties, sometimes, they think, well, hang on, I can actually go and find that extra X amount of dollars. I've had people where they've gone and increased their bank loan just because your pre-approval was for a certain amount. You might have got that pre-approval because you thought that's what you want to spend at that time. But maybe you think, well, actually, I will take on that second job. I will get a loan for my mother. I've done that before. And you might say, well, I'll get somebody to come on board with me. So yes, sometimes it's worth stretching and going out of your limit in that way. And other times you might find, well, hang on, there's actually a cheaper property that I could buy and I could renovate that. Just because you can't find the house that's got the pool, the garages that you want, the ensuite and all those different things, doesn't mean that you can't add a garage. Depending on the house, it might be thinking totally outside the square. So that's what I like to do. I like to get to know my buyers as well as, because then I can match them, and that's not hurting the seller at all, because actually sellers are looking for genuine buyers that are all ready. They got their pre-approval, they understand the pricing, so they can come in strong and make genuine, strong offers. They know the local sales, so when they make that offer, they're not going to pull out. So my buyers tend to stick, and that's really important, because you don't want the property on and off the market looking like it's sold and then suddenly it didn't sell because that buyer didn't realise maybe they were offering the wrong amount that they felt comfortable with. Also, going to open homes, again, that was that tip, is just get to know the market. Come and see us. If you're going to be selling as well as buying, then you'll find that you get to know the agents and you get to hear the different ways they work with the buyers, because you're one of those buyers now, and also you can just listen in. But so it is always good to do that, and again, get to know the local agents and be upfront. We're not all bad guys. It's not like that. And sometimes people say, I really just don't trust real estate agents. But I do find often that is genuine, where they're actually not trusting that they can be strong with a real estate agent, or maybe they don't know the information, so they've been caught out before not understanding something. So just talk, just ask the questions. We're not all bad guys by any means. You'll find that the bulk of real estate agents are actually out there doing a job. That's what they do, and actually something they love, because they work with people and matching people to properties. So it's like a property matchmaker, just a real passion for real estate. And other people are out there wanting to do it for the money, but that is actually great for you, because you look at if they're wanting to get deals done, they're helping the buyer, they're helping the seller. It's working, as long as it's not a deal at any cost. So I think that's important, and I guess that's why I do paraphrase whatever the wording is for when I call myself the no BS real estate agent, or the agent that you always feel at home with, because I just think if you can come and talk to me, we can get things sorted, and it tends to work that way. So that's my my live video for today. If you have any questions, you can drop them below. If you want to privately contact me, if it's a question that's a little bit more with personal information about what you want. But if it's just a general question and you're not sure, what something means, by all means ask. I might do a video for you on that. I've got a lot of experience. I did start in 2002 with real estate, but also I've bought and sold properties. I know what it feels like to be a buyer. I know what it feels like to go and look at a property and it says contact agent, and I think, oh, what the heck does that mean? Even as a real estate agent, I don't know what they're looking at, whether I'm wasting my time. I can know what price I want, but at the end of the day, I find that difficult. But you do know roughly the price range when you start thinking about it. So yes, I've been a buyer. I've bought a range of properties from owning my own home as well as first home buyer. I've got a story about that. That's always interesting. First home buyer stories, I guess, because you just don't know what you're doing. But at the end of the day, I didn't lose on real estate, never have lost a cent on real estate when buying and selling, but you can. So you just got to always know that if you buy educated and buy well in the market, you're not going to have too much of a drama. And especially when it's buying in today's real estate market. The other thing I was thinking is, you also, if you're selling, you're buying and selling in the same market. So you might be a seller, you might be a buyer, but you'll find that you might have to take 2% less when you're selling your property, but you'll pick up the fact that the property you're buying has probably decreased by 2%. I don't even think it's that much in the local market, that 2%. There's some properties that seem to have been reduced by a fair bit, but maybe I think they might have come on the market as the prices were at the absolute, at the top, and you don't know when that top is until it's turned. Okay, so some of the prices might have been that, and then they've been adjusted, and also the appraisals might have been done a fair while ago, so when they came on the market they already had that figure in mind. So sometimes that can seem like there's a bigger change in the market, but that's a change in asking price. The change in actually what is achieved is probably not that much different, and we still have competition on properties. We've had multiple offers, so that's a little bit extra into my subject today is, well, that's the state of the market, but that's the state of the market in our little neck of the world in Raymond Terrace, Madawi. If you go to Sydney, you might hear that there's people saying bigger stories, but I bet you there's still people getting away with really happy, sales vendors will be happy with that. Buyers feel like they're winning. It's just, you've got to feel like it's not always about price. It's sometimes that you actually get the house that you love. It's in a perfect location. That few thousand difference in what you might pay might hurt in today's pocket. It might hurt if the interest rates go up a little bit, so just account for that. But after a while, that you'll be talking in hundreds of thousands, okay, the difference later. When you might say, because I bought a house, my first home, I won't do the whole story, but it was 70 odd thousand. I don't remember exactly the number, and that's what I'm getting at. You don't remember the number. It's in that bracket. So 70, that house, same house, when I researched it last year, that was probably up around about the 700 warehouses were selling at. So it would be good to still own that, but I probably would have, I've used the money in other ways since. I had another property that purchased, and I can't remember exactly what it was. It's in the early 200s. That was in the Central Coast, and those properties are probably over the million now. So it's all relative. As long as you get in, you don't remember it in 5 years' time exactly what you paid, and you'll probably spend more on your trip to Bali or something like that than what you're haggling on with the property. But I do think it's just people want to feel like they won. Okay, no one wants to feel like they lost. So I guess at the end of the day, if we can come up with something between the two, you end up with, like the two being the seller and the buyer, that you'll find a happy spot. Okay, so thanks for listening to me today, and I will try. My group is At Home with Kris, and if you want to join the group, you're welcome to. Just do a search on it, you'll find it. And what we're doing there, it's At Home with Kris. So the concept is that, well, it's anything from home. So it could be real estate. We all live in a house, a unit, a caravan. It could be anything like that. So I'm actually thinking about going caravanning, so we might have some caravanning stories. But then there's also, it could be your home business. So I've done a little bit of focus on home business and people working from home, but it could be someone feeling like they're stuck at home and just want an extra interest. So we'll do hobbies. Yesterday we had the puppy dogs, so that was really good. I love the puppy dogs, and lots of people were having a look at that. So if you missed that video, just go back to my profile and you'll see that, or you'll find all of those videos on At Home with Kris. And if you do have any questions, or you would like to have your business interviewed or highlighted on there, because what I really want to find out is, well, people working from home, now, they have a different sort of lifestyle to people that work in an office somewhere and never get to go home during the day. So it also can be hard motivating yourself working at home. You can find that you just can't get a structured day out of that. And I think that the more people work together, I work from home sometimes. I sometimes make phone calls at home and do that because it's a lot quieter for me. I actually enjoy that. I find I actually get more work done when I'm working at home, but other people find that they get more work done if they actually go to a formal office. So there's all different ways you can do that, and we might even share a recipe or two, but I want to keep it a little bit where it's practical things that you get done at home. So we'll see what happens, and thank you for listening. See you later.